Well, probably just about me. I'm a scientist. You may not believe it, having difficulties here in sociology and applied mathematics. And I'm using Fedora since Core 1, so I have some experience. And regarding to joining Fedora, I joined or engaged in Fedora some years ago when Matthew started to reboot Fedora Server Edition working group, and then later joined Fedora Docs team as well. Well, probably we start with where we stand today. Hank, switch to next. Now, where we stand today. It's often just good to have a short look back to understand where we are standing and especially why we are doing that. There are some events over the last decades. Fedora switched from a unified distribution to a set of specialized editions. It was about a decade ago. But the documentation couldn't keep up with this for various reasons. It kept to be mainly a unified installation guide and a unified administration guide. That's one issue. Then Doc switched from the DocBooks Publican to a ASCII Doc and Torah and Git technology. This technology had quite a different workflow, and it was a new technique. Everyone was excited, but when the thrill of the new was gone, well, the doc team dried up. It's something which often happens in open source projects. People turn about to new techniques, to new groups, and continue there. Well, nevertheless, the need for documentation still existed. And that was the birth of QuickDocs, which replaced the handbook-like documentation we needed until then by this collection of short how-tos and tutorials. But because we had no doc teams over a longer period, this collection turned into a widely varying collection of varying reliability and varying reliability. Well, that was the situation when we rebooted the docs team. And the rebootion or the revitalization was quite successful. We can see on the next slide. Good, yes, that one. At the beginning of the last year, there started, we had no docs team at all. There was no meeting, there was no discussion anywhere. It was just dormant. It was sleeping. And at studying the author statistics, we managed to get a lot of authors which started to engage. Was in the first period about 0.84 author contribution per week. We got it to nearly 3 author contributions per week in the last half year. And we made, we adjusted the curation of the docs team. We fixed the disparity between the structure of the distribution and the structure of the documentation. The documentation was unified at that time, whereas the distribution was a collection of specialized editions. So you see that's a new documentation landing page or start homepage. We clearly emphasize the various Fedora variants and made a complete listing of all the variants, so everyone was listed, or every initiative was listed. Well, that's what happened during the first year. And taking the next slide. Could you turn the next slide? Okay. That's the current, wait a moment. So that's the current state of Fedora docs. You see we have a lot of number of documentations for the various editions, but the most important or the most documentation is QuickDocs. It is 275 documents, much more than any of the single editions is. And that is the reason because why QuickDocs is such important for Fedora documentation. That's so. Next slide. Next one, Hank. Okay, that is what is to do next, or what is to do during the next Fedora release cycle. We have two tasks, I suppose. We have to strengthen and to rebuild the Fedora authors community. You saw from the statistics, we are not such many people at the moment. And we have to push QuickDocs because QuickDocs is the most important collection of documentation. It was originally, I think it was invented by Matthew some years ago and was intended as an alternative to the supplement or to the monolithic documentation we had until then. But it still uses the same structure, and we have to renew and to update the structure, the creation of QuickDocs too. And that is the next the thing. We have to push QuickDocs. Wait a moment. I have to follow here. So if you have a look at the most visited pages of Fedora documentation, you will see the most often visited documentation is April. But after that, every other documentation of the top 10 is QuickDocs. So QuickDocs is the most visited Fedora documentation. And that's the reason it is the highest priority for us during the next month, the next year. If you have a look at QuickDocs, you see on the next slide. Well, QuickDocs was intended as a collection of special documentation for problem-centered how-tos and tutorials. But instead, I already said, evolved into a collection of all kinds of ad hoc documentation and addressing a variety of topics, variety quality, variety relative. Some issues you see here at the slide. The first one, it has still a hierarchical navigation menu as a classic monolithic documentation, which is no longer suitable, no longer okay. Then we have question reliability, as you see on the caution note at the top. And it should be a short documentation, but if you need a longer content listing as we have on the right side, it's not necessarily short. And the footer reveals the main problem. You can see the last content update at the very last line of this document is 2019 years. So it's about 4 years old. And probably not, it's not a reliable information anymore. So we have to address these things. And we first introduced a new documentation template, as you see on the next slide. We the first measure is to make clear what is the status of a document. That's the first line. We introduced an author's line, so we knew probably the latest three persons who wrote the documentation. But specifically, we introduced a version information, which Fedora version is the documentation is for, and very important, the most important thing, when was the last review? That means the last substantial review, not just typo or something like that. And we got away from the hierarchical menu and we use categories now. You see those on the right side. We have a category which is well, we have only one category per document, so it's the first high-level structuring of the documentation, and we have tags, and you can have multiple tags per document. So we can manage a problem that some documents are not just for one issue, but maybe relevant for various issues. Okay, and we ditch the navigation menu at all. So that's a new documentation structure for QuickDocs you want to pursue in the next month. Wait a moment. Okay, so the next slide. Just to tell you about how huge the task is. We have 275 articles, yes. So that's a lot of pages, a lot of information we have to keep updated. And well, that's the most important. The problem we have to manage these number of articles, that is, we need anybody, any Fedorian to try to contribute to this documentation. I see there about 32 participants here. I hope we have 22 potential contributors for QuickDocs. Well, I think now we'll continue with the authors community. Oh, Hank, it's your turn.
Okay, I could begin. Original time is up. I wonder how much time we can spare, Justin?
Yeah, so we are actually lined up against the break. We are actually a lot. We have a break here. We have some time to go over, and we can be a little flexible here. So feel free to keep going on the presentation.
Cool. Okay. Right, so following from Peter's presentation on the pushing QuickDocs and the history of Docs team, and that we are going over this topic, rebuilding the authors community. So the topic is about the onboarding newcomers. So that's actually how I got started with the Docs team's contributions. So just exactly a year ago, when I joined Docs, and the first time I got into the Matrix chat, and then just reading the room, and I got to know, okay, what is priority for the team, and then Peter suggested the revisiting the contributor guides, because there are lots of pages that need to be reviewed and also checked by maybe I was a new contributor and so new to examine how that actually works. So that was a good challenge for me. So there are a couple of guides. So depending on the preference, or there's the past experience or more experience, there are lots of guides they can walk through. So the first one is the how to render the page locally. So when you make some changes, and before that is confirmed by reviewers and then driven to production, then running the test, and then finally see the most close image that is running the local preview. So those are all the guides are in the docs team page underneath the link below. So the other one is the using Web IDE in GitLab and also Pagure. That is just using web interface without terminal or text editors, so that the newcomers can feel it comfortable with just using web browser, and then just guiding through the steps on the user interface, and all the job is done on the web browser. That is intention. So I spent a few weeks to go through all the steps in both system, Pagure and GitLab, and they made the major edits on the guideline. And the other one, the create new documentation module, and the also the key markup rules using ASCII for writers. There is very concise documentation updated in the docs team page. And finally, using the Veil documentation linter, there was quite a new revelation. So all the just beyond spell checking, all the style and all the trademark, how to use them properly according to style guide, that is well programmed into the application called Veil. So you can run it locally in terminal. That is one way, and the other way is to run it through the build script that is only supported in GitLab at the moment. So that is a good experiment to how the running the test works for the documentation. The second stage, after all the updating work of the contributor guides, I did my tours into JoinSig in the previous session, led by two colleagues. So reaching out to potential contributors, that is my next curiosity and enjoy to onboard those people who are interested in technical writing and design of the docs website and UX side of improvement, and also the maintaining documentation. That is my most of my time spent on the maintaining documentation. And yeah, I'd like to automate as much as possible, but so far updating, onboarding guys, and reaching out to people, that is a good energy to keep me going with the docs team. Okay, so moving on to the next slide is the another topic called Write Together. So I took some inspiration from the Hackfest, Docs Hackfest, and also the local writing club. So just people got together for an hour and they write and share the learnings and the asking questions, and just building a rapport between the writing community writers. That was so this is a new one. So this is more of a proposal of ideas to the stage, and also we'll wait until maybe September, where after the flock is completed, then Docs team will share how we are going to deliver this event in reality. So basically, the writing shouldn't be a solitary pursuit. Normally, people have a flow of moment to work on their documentation, correcting typos or improving the documentation repo. But there is a teamwork element. We can bring this into more scalable, work for us. So This is more about the write together virtually. Yes, it's easy to start. So the concept is it's more of a happy medium between social hour, so without any agenda. But we'd like to add some more, objective, a goal that we can learn from it. So that from the session. So it's not going to be formal onboarding, how to write, how to use Asciido, but we can mix things up. We are flexible. So idea is to get the writing done together, and also took an idea from the students. During the lockdown, they want to get in touch with the colleagues and also sharing work and get some ideas about how to get the assignment done. So that is sort of an idea, and also build very positive habits on pursuing this writing, and also ultimately more, the specialized topic like the technical writing and user experience improvement. And also, when you are writing all alone all the time, and quite easily get the writer's block, and that also happens in the other creative writing. Also happened to me after finishing 2 articles for the magazine. I couldn't write further for the user documentation for the magazine. So writing together also help you, manage those, passion and energy, so they help you keep it going. And ultimately, I want to keep contributors interested in writing and more involved with the Docs team and the rest of the Fedora project. So yeah, as I alluded earlier, it's not going to be just pre-programmed, rigid, the course to build writers. It's very flexible. So there are 3 types of, session. So we start with the icebreaker. So introduce each other, and also getting before getting into the writing mode, just introducing each other, what they are doing, what are they writing about, and then we will dedicate an hour focused time. So it could be anything, not just the Fedora docs maintenance. It could be your priority project at your day work, and also anything other than updating the documentation as well. Yeah, we can do that. Just pick the item and just write. And then after that, there's an optional session to share the progress, and also just a quite social session about the experience, or if you haven't achieved, there's no shame involved. But share the experience, and then it's quite optional. If you want to just write, concentrate, and you don't need to join optional hangout session, but I think that is beneficial for especially newcomers to build the teamwork, and also learn something from just a little bit of like technical point of view, in how to use the web IDE, and also how to get feedback from the reviewers, and there could be anything like a Q&A session, right? So along the next weeks or so, Talks team will share how we're going to make it happen after Flock. And then I'm imagining maybe once a month to start with, and then based on feedback, we're going to flex and change the concept, and then we can build upon that. So that's an idea. So yeah, as introduced a little bit earlier, then yeah, the format is flexible. That's the key to people get more interested with this concept, and then working together, and also we will improve the this program to see more authors joining and updating documentation, get fun out of it. So yes, I mean it. Writing is fun. Writing is the main mode of contribution so far in Fedora. Thank you. So I quickly run through it. All right. Any questions? You can do it now, or we can go through that in Q&A even after the session is completed. So let me see what questions there are. Yeah, the Hackfest. Yeah, it could be September. So it's going to be, I think, monthly. That will be ideal. Yeah, I haven't discussed with the rest of the team, but what do you think? So, okay, thank you. Yeah. We'll keep you updated through possibly a magazine or discourse about the specified flip planning and suggestion. Thank you. So, okay. So there are a question from Justin. So how did we get started with Fedora? So, Peter?
Okay, yes. As I can try. I started with Fedora Core 1. And, well, I came from IBM. That time I was looking for a reliable system for our university or department computers. Well, and I came to Red Hat 9 that time because it was as reliable and as big as I knew from previous IBM OS2 operating system. And then, well, I started with Fedora as my desktop. It was quite difficult in those times. And we used for our servers either Scientific Linux at that time or the Fedora in the server configuration. And part of my job was to do research, of course, at the university, and other parts, a part-time administrator of the, or not administrator, but for the guys of the computer department. And I had to make sure everything worked as a scientists want to have it, and not as the technicians want to have it. But later I had to drop Fedora desktop because GNOME 3 was too much new style of work. It didn't fit into my my working habits. So, but I kept a Fedora server, of course, and so it's probably not a surprise that I joined Fedora working group when Matthew restarted the working group some years ago, 3 years, I think. And I must say, joining Fedora is just a little warning. When I started my engagement, I just wanted to write documentation for server. And I want to share our department's documentation with the project. But somehow I got more engaged and even more engaged. And nowadays I'm doing a lot for the server working group, much more as I originally thought I would do. Well, but on the other hand, it says how much fun it is to engage in Fedora. And I think if everyone once started, you will not want to miss it anymore. It's so much fun. It's very a good feeling to contribute and to see the contribution used by others. So I'm quite happy doing it.
Cool. All right. Very, very inspiring, Peter. Okay, so my turn then, just quickly about how I started the Fedora project was, of course, the installation of Fedora and also which distro do I need to choose? That was a big question 2 years ago. So when I started learning how to do things in cloud, and then I realized I did very dangerous things without knowing what commands do. So I was sort of a script kiddie without knowing what exact commands do. So I learned I need to learn the basics. So I got to see which distro will help me learn better and what community is big. So I shortlisted Fedora as a #1 choice. And then 2 years ago, I installed it successfully. And then from then on, mostly I spend the documentation side, firstly with the magazine and also docs, because curiosity, start to, dominate myself. So how it works behind these docs page, all the quick docs and CoreOS, and how actual documentation works, and realize that heavily is a developer-based workflow, but still I was curious how that works. So that's how I began, and how I met Peter and Francois and the docs team to feel my desire to get documentation improved. Okay.
Well, okay. I think no questions, no more questions. So thank you very much for having the patience with our technical issues. And I'm quite proud to have found the hidden button.
Yeah, we made it. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Okay, back to